Hello and welcome back to the S.H.E Gallery Show. You are live with us tonight with Jose Ramos. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Also known as Mace One, a graffiti artist, or he started off from the graffiti artist and moved into graphic design type of medium. And you are live with us on CAN TV. Please remember that you can reach us directly at 312-738-1060 and join in the conversation at any time. And please remember that you can always reach us through our website at sharinghisenergygallery.net. You can email us and you can call me directly. You have a story you'd like to share, some ideas, whatever it is. So we're going to jump straight in because we have a lot to cover. I've known Jose for a very long time. Last week we talked about the graffiti history and how it blends with maybe some of the party scene from earlier on. And that's just how it is in Chicago. If you were part of the graffiti scene, the party scene, the DJ scene, you all just kind of met. And I don't know how long it's been, but it's been a long time, and it's such a great pleasure to have you here today after so much history and watching us all grow. Now, Jose is, you were born in Mexico, you come here, you come to Chicago, and you've been pretty much throughout all over the South Side, Pilsen, Back of the Yards, Garfield, Brighton Park, Midway, all over. And can you talk to us a little bit about your first experiences, first witnessing graffiti or what that was like?
Yes. Living in Pilsen at such a young age, it just seemed like letters and art on the wall. I didn't know what it was. It was just, it was art. So that caught my attention, and because of that, that's kind of later on, I just kind of stuck with following that pattern, not knowing what graffiti was. So being in Pilsen at a young age is what caught my attention.
So you thought it was just eye candy, I like that. These are letters, these fonts, they're colors, you liked it. And when was it that you actually started practicing this graffiti art form?
Well, it took a long while after that. I was in 8th grade when I actually caught up to that. Got a better understanding on what it was. So I started drawing my name, started coloring. Throughout that, I've always colored, coloring books and drawing, but I never thought about drawing my name. And once I caught up to that, it's like the feeling and the rush, it was enough to just keep me going.
Mm-hmm. So you started off on paper kind of practicing, and then you went out there?
Yes.
Okay, and then so this is when you started seeing, in 8th grade around this time in the South Side, you saw crews like ABC Crew, and you keep seeing this. And then it was also in 8th grade that you got your name Mace, is that right?
Yes.
So you've had this name Mace for a very long time.
Yes, at that point, I knew that this is something I like to do, so I figured, I just got to find one name, stick to it, and just go through with it. And Mace was the one, and I'm still doing it, so Mace is the one.
All right, so this is since 8th grade. This is a long time. So tonight we're talking to one of the graffiti innovators. We've seen how far graffiti has come, how popular it's become. So this is somebody that's been around since, we'd say the 90s here in the South Side of Chicago? Why don't we go through the Mace evolution and learn a little bit more about graffiti history. All in all, it is a very organized art form. There's many tiers to it. There's many different type of art forms. As Jose was mentioning, you're able to tell just through style which are the older graffiti writers versus some of the newer graffiti writers or graffiti artists. So you want to talk to us a little bit more about that, the graffiti evolution? Or your personal graffiti evolution?
My personal experience throughout my evolution of graffiti is, I learn as I go, so there's no plan in what I'm going to do next day, next week, next month. Graffiti is what caught my attention, and for me, graffiti is letters, arrows, your own style, basically. So, I kept doing me without trying to bite off of other people. That alone kept my style what it is right now. So graffiti to me is like an outlet. It's arrows, colors, just out of the ordinary. What you're not supposed to do in actual art, you apply it to graffiti, and that's what makes graffiti beautiful.
And there's a lot of respect there. Immediately, we talk about how you got your name. and you knew that you could not bite somebody else's name. You know, you don't want to bite somebody else's style. You want to talk to us a little bit about all of the respect that graffiti holds as far as like the tiers and the names go? Like you can't go over this, but it's okay if you do that.
Well, I mean,
The
if you're gonna
graffiti
be in the
rules.
game, at some point, you have your little you learn as you go. So you know that you can't bite off of people's names. You can't bite off their style. You just have to be you, basically. And just being you is you are doing you without trying to bite somebody else. I mean, everybody that does graffiti, they're gonna have their own style. No one starts perfect, so you're always gonna start at the bottom. The more you practice, the better you get at it. The more respect you get out of it. But otherwise, I mean, you're biting people's style. People recognize people's styles. Nowadays, you have the internet.
There's so much of it now.
Yes.
So much. That's why we respect these type of innovators. So Jose, like when we first started with S.H.E Gallery, I was in this business for art class, not really knowing what I was gonna do, and my teacher tells me, "Well, what is it do you want to do? Let's pretend. Let's pretend you could have something." I'm like, "Well, what upsets me right now?" I grew up in this generation where everything was just for fun, where graffiti was just for fun, where having these parties were just for fun. And then that kind of evolved into like underground galleries where it was like the same graffiti artists amongst the same type of guests. And that was fun. And then the next thing that you saw were these other institutions, these galleries bringing in these other graffiti writers that were not really the same innovating graffiti artists. And that was kind of upsetting because they made it big. So for me, that's what I had to say in class. I say, okay, well, I know a lot of people that have been doing this forever, that have like real blood, sweat, and tears, that have really risked their lives. Some of them are no longer with us, rest in peace. And what about them? So that was upsetting. So I said, okay, S.H.E Gallery. This was like my pretend homework for my business for art class, and here we are 4 years later. And Mace is one of the artists that we had put together that I said, okay, these are some of the artists that I have a lot of respect for here in the South Side. So Mace is one of the artists that we had.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for doing this. So these are sometimes risky places, legal places, and you risked it all for this freedom, for this sense of freedom.
I mean, I think that's graffiti is basically illegal stuff. That's how you start. So, you got to put your work in. You do what you do. Do it for you, not for someone else. And that's basically what it started with. So.
Not for the trend.
Not for the trend. Back then, there was no trend. There was no internet. There was nothing. You just did it for you.
And then you get into these graffiti crews, and they're very organized, and sometimes you'd have battles, but they were, again, very safe, almost like dance battles, but it's like competing battles. And you have this crew against this crew, and you're going to do it at this wall. And then still something that goes on is meeting of styles, something extremely organized that started in Germany a while ago, maybe 13 years ago, not that long ago in the big picture, where everybody gets together. You want to talk to us a little bit about meeting of styles and your experience with it?
My experience with the meeting of styles, I mean, I can't remember the first time I started meeting of styles, but it unites everybody. It's like a big art event. You meet people from different places, different areas, and it's not like gangs where you meet each other and one is against the other. This graffiti is more like you unite each other. It has no color. It just, once you meet somebody, hey, we do the same thing, we connect, and from there, we try to produce the best thing that we can.
Yeah, that's one of the most beautiful things, the most respected things for me about graffiti is that just growing up in it, you see people coming from this class and this class and this class, and suddenly none of that matters. Everybody just wants to get up.
Right.
And it was so new that it was just exciting.
Yes.
So I remember my brother, our tech, who was also a part of Paveway Nags, that's how I learned about graffiti. I was in 4th grade, and I was like, I want to do what you do. But, the Krylons and the Rustos were very hard for this little girl. So I told my brother, can you please, write my spelling or whatever it was in your graffiti letters? And I just loved it, the bubble letters. It was a really cool type of feeling. And Hyde, rest in peace. I remember Case and Hyde, they had this sheet of paper. And what the sheet of paper had were all of the alphabet in bubble letters, and that's
Yes.
something that you probably don't see anymore. It's so cool. So that's how my brother would practice, and I try to practice with him and do that. And here we move into this entirely new era that Mace takes us into, where you're applying this old school type of style that you started with, and you're moving it into your practice because you ended up going to art school, right? You want to talk to us about going to art school and how you are applying your digital art forms, or what you learned from school to your innovative graffiti days into your newest digital art forms.
Yes, I mean, at first I didn't know the difference between fine art or commercial art. So when I went to school, I explained to them what I like to do. I like to do graffiti. I like to work with letters. I like to work with fonts. And they said, okay, you're graphic design. So, a few years later, everything I've learned, I converted my graffiti art into digital art. It's like so many options out there you can do nowadays. It's like, you can't be limited. If I don't have time to go out and spray paint or paint some murals, I'll work on whatever sketches I have at home. And with that, I'm practicing my alphabet. I think structure is a big thing. It's what makes you better. I mean, I feel as though there's no right or wrong. But practicing your alphabet, just like when you're in grammar school, you're always practicing your letters, your alphabets. You just have a style that they show you. This is my style that I chose to. So this is my freedom, my alphabet, my, being free. No one can tell me it's right or wrong. But I like to keep the balance within all my letters in order to keep it all as a group.
And what was it like moving out from writing your name into writing the entire alphabet for you?
Well, at some point I figured, in order to get better, you need to be able to do more than just your name. So that kind of took me out of the element of just doing my name all the time. Mace, Mace, Macer, Mace, Macer. So with that, it's like I would like to try different letters, and that brought me to doing the alphabet. So it's fun, like, just doing all different letters, because, I mean, you never know what you want to spell out next, and you have your alphabet, you can just look at your alphabet and go from there.
And here we have more murals. So you still get together with your crews, with RK crew, and you still work on these organized murals productions. This is something that you see yourself doing for the rest of your life?
Yes. RK is my crew right now, and I feel as they're always going to be. We have meetings once a month, every Monday. We always connect. Those who can come out, those who can't come out, but we're always connected. We give each other the chance to participate anytime we can. We learn from each other because we all have different skills. So that's how being as a crew makes us better.
Mm-hmm. And for those of you who are not familiar with the way that graffiti crews work, they're no different than art collectives. It's a group of people that get together, but in this case it's the same group of people that have likely gotten together in a long time. You recruit members. You want to talk to us a little bit more about the way that crews are formed and the way that you got involved with the crews that you're working with now? Where you guys travel and do some organized murals?
A few times, it's more of like mutual friends. We've seen each other's paintings here and there, and that's how we end up connecting. We have the same kind of style or the same interest, and we end up connecting, and we end up painting in the same kind of events. So at some point, we end up hooking up. Either if you have your own crew, you stay with your crew. If you're sometimes you grow up with not having a crew, and then from there, it's like everything else just, falls in place. Again, I mean, we're sharing the same kind of love, like, art, graffiti. There's no rules in there, so we just we just connect and we learn from each other.
Yeah, it's truly a beautiful union. Not only a union within the city, especially in a city where there was so much gang and violence, especially in the eras that some of us grew up in here in Chicago, or some things haven't changed, I don't know, in some neighborhoods, but there's something really special about graffiti as a whole, especially with these just like meeting of styles, because we are coming together from all over the world. Meeting of styles started in Germany, I believe, and every year they get together in different parts of the world. So some people travel. So if you want, you can travel to Germany, Mexico, wherever it goes, wherever it travels. So people come here, and that's always really, really exciting. And it's like an entire weekend event where there's like a meeting, everybody gets together, and then people paint these walls that everybody already knows who organizes these walls. So if you want to get involved, you already know who you have to talk to. It's not just like this crew or that crew. It's like everybody gets together from the entire world, not just Chicago, not just Germany, not just Mexico. And then you have a bigger opportunity to network. And next thing you know, you can travel to these other places of the world, and like maybe more than family in some occasions, you're just welcomed. And just because you're part of this crew or because you came from that crew, you can stay here for free. We'll take care of you. We'll go paint. And where else do you see that?
I don't think you see that everywhere.
Or anywhere, even with baseball. I don't know if that's, I don't know.
I mean, maybe baseball.
I love sports.
but I've experienced a few times where painting and going elsewhere,
Yeah.
it's not cheap. Like back in the days.
And paint is so expensive.
Yes.
It has to be super respected. And these traveling,
Yes.
getting walls.
So nowadays, like I said, we connect. Everybody's connected somehow. You're networking. You're doing the same thing other people do, and off of each other, you're learning. So people share their homes for you to come paint with them, and I don't think I've ever seen that. Besides, like if you don't paint and you're going somewhere else, you just have to find your own place to stay.
That's what's so beautiful about graffiti. Not just that it looks beautiful, but when you get to this behind the scenes of the innovating ways of how it was practiced, and many people are still practicing, it's not just painting with a spray can. I think, some people have talked to me, oh, that's graffiti, just because they see it painted with spray can, and it's almost insulting, but you can't get mad because you have to understand that there's a lot of education that's been left out in the graffiti world, in this graffiti game. So it's very important to have these type of conversations. I don't think a lot of people thought that it would. Even me in my very young age, just growing up and just seeing it, like 1992, or yeah, I think it was like 1992. It was just fun, and it was super illegal, and I would go in the back of Gage Park and I would try to do it, and it was very hard with the Krylon cans.
That's the best part.
And that's it, and that's what separates that era from this era.
Yes.
The mediums, they've become so accessible. You have these gold cans, sugar spray cans. You want to talk to us a little bit about that? What separates that era from this era?
I mean, back in the day, like I said, we used Krylon, Rust-Oleum, and nowadays you have all these Montana cans and everything, so it's just much easier. You have many more choices now, but, just doing what you can with the little bit of what you had and being able to do what you were able to do, it's what makes it like that much more powerful.
And it is. And now how do you feel about having these other cans that are so easy to use?
Well, now, I'm not going to not use them, so I'm going to use them to my advantage and try to improve my skills by using that. Using what I had before, using, everything improves. Just like cars. Back in the days, no seatbelts. Now they got seatbelts, they're improved. Everything else is just, you got to use it. You got to use it to your advantage.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's another thing that we saw, like, before it was very hard to access these type of materials, and now they're just there and available. You can order them online, and you can get whatever cap you want. These caps do different things, so they do half of the work for you half of the time, and that's been really, really special. So we have Jose Mace that starts off, and yeah, you were actually born in Mexico. You come here, and you're just exposed to these different eras of these fonts, these decorations in the city, and then you jump right in and you say, "I want to." Were you ever afraid?
It took a while, but I was just finding myself, and I followed what my heart said. So
We have a caller, really quick. Caller, do you have a question?
I certainly do. Good evening, Duche and
how you
Jose.
doing?
Duche and Jose, that sounds pretty good.
Thank you, thank you.
Yay. Oh, that artwork, that graffiti, I tell you, some of them are so beautiful. Let me tell you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
You need to open a gallery for those kids, because thank God for those kids drawing that graffiti on those trains. Because we sit at those trains for 20 minutes, at least we got something to look at. You wonder how the heck does a kid get in there and make those beautiful things on those trains. But this city needs a lot of help with these kids.
Yes.
Any way, shape, or form. Art, music, writing, graffiti, her name, your name. These kids need help. See, maybe you could get a little funding and maybe open a big place where all those kids can come into place and the whole city of Chicago can see them.
Yes.
I don't know what the letters mean. I don't know what the colors mean, but they are beautiful.
Thank you. That's
I know
what kept
one-
me out of trouble.
Thank you. Thank you, caller. And thank you guys for being with us. We'll see you next week.